It's been a rough month. I mean, basically, I was bedridden for a month. So, it took me out pretty hard. I mean, it's one of those where you're just sitting there thinking, like, is this it? Is this the end?
And here in Seattle, especially, I think we're like number 7 in the country for car thefts. And I found out about that firsthand yesterday.
Oh.
If anybody sees a 2013 navy blue Lexus that's got a WSU sticker down on the lower left, and let me know. Well, welcome everybody to Chino y Chicano.
I'm Matt Chan, the Chino.
I'm Enrique, the Chicano. Well, it's been several weeks since we recorded an episode. Last episode, we focused on Matt's cancer and how he's doing, some new spots that showed up on his liver and how he's handling all of that. Been giving Matt some space in order to deal with his new treatment regarding all of that stuff. So, Matt, how are you doing now?
Well, it's been a rough month. I mean, basically, I was bedridden for a month. So, it took me out pretty hard. I mean, it's one of those where you're just sitting there thinking, like, is this it? Is this the end? And so I had some low points there, but I've been on the medication now for over 2 weeks, and it seems to be taking. I don't feel sick anymore. I just feel very fatigued. So that's what I'm dealing with. And, I got to do some physical therapy to get my body back and everything else back into shape. Hopefully I didn't deteriorate too much, but, it's daunting when you're inactive, how quickly your body kind of degenerates. So, that gives me something to focus on. So I think, hopefully in another couple of weeks, I should be pretty good, at least fully functional. But right now I still get really tired. I try to walk around and I can walk for a while, but I get pretty tired.
Yeah, you get winded easily. I noticed that times we've talked on the phone and you're kind of catching your breath. So that's got to be frustrating. Well,
I'm doing some of those exercises to increase my breathing, and that's actually helped.
Yeah. It seems like cancer is popping up around the world these days. You're right up there with King Charles now.
Yeah. Well, at a certain age, right?
Yeah.
Something happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
The most tragic is when it happens to someone younger.
Right.
But, when you're old, you kind of expect that. But, still, cancer's pretty brutal.
So what are you doing to kind of just keep your spirits up? This is a challenge.
Well, family, friends, talking to people. Whenever I'm engaged in talking to people, it's a lot better because it takes your mind off it. But, when you're by yourself and you're kind of sitting there and, you tend to start concentrating on yourself. And sometimes that's not a great thing. Yeah.
I think the talking and being able to just communicate with your friends, hopefully with me and the other buddies and stuff like that, I would imagine that would be helpful. Maybe at times, maybe you don't want to talk about it, but do you find it helpful? Do you find it cathartic?
I find it very helpful. Because it gets you outside of your head.
Yeah.
And that it connects you with the real world. And that's really important.
Yeah. The main thing is just keep the spirits up. You got a road to go through here, and hopefully things will get better, but we'll just see. And hopefully that the treatment you're on now, because they've changed things up, right?
Yeah, they've changed things up. It's the same. It's no cure, but it suppresses the cancer and it buys you time. Maybe I bought myself another year and a half, maybe 2 years. Don't know. That's the brutality of it, is not knowing.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll be here to see Biden win re-election and Trump go to jail. I guess that's something to live for, right?
Yeah, why not? Look at that. Make that a goal, so you can see all that. All right, let's move on and talk about something that is a real problem in cities around the country. And here in Seattle, especially, I think we're like number 7 in the country for car thefts. And I found out about that firsthand yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I went to a meeting at the Wing Luke Museum. About 1 o'clock, I parked my car on South Weller and 8th, right in there, right by Canton Alley in the Chinatown International District. Went to the meeting at the Wing Luke, got out about 3:30, walked over to Tai Tung. I like their special chow fun, so I got that for dinner. Walked back to my car, and my car was not there. There was another car parked where I had parked my car. And I have to tell you, immediately I'm thinking, am I having a senior moment here? Am I, did I forget? Because I have actually forgotten where I parked my car before, but in a big lot, that's usually the case. But, I'm thinking, I know I parked my car here because I used the pay by phone and all this stuff. And then I kind of did a panic walk where I walked all over the site, the ID, down different streets and all of that to see if I could spot my car or to see if I had parked it someplace else and wondering, okay, did I misplace it or whatever? Finally, after about, I don't know, half hour or more, came back to the spot and, realized that my car was missing. So I immediately called the police and, since it's not an emergency type of thing, I was on the phone for probably about 35 minutes before I got somebody and kind of explained what had happened and reported what I believe was a car theft. And then called my son. He came and picked me up, and we waited for an officer to show up. And finally, an officer did show up when we reported everything, filed a report, came home. And, it's one of these things where it hits you. And I was, I think, more stunned than anything else. And then gradually I just got pissed off because I just like, damn, this makes me mad because I liked the car. It was a 2013 navy blue Lexus 350. Sweet car, very, very sweet car. Not that many miles on it. Runs well, all of that. And it just made me angry. Really, more than any. You ever had a car stolen?
No, I've had cars broken into, but it's just such a violation.
It is.
You hear about car thefts all the time. You get mad. You say like, what's wrong with this city? And then it happens to you, and then it becomes real. I mean,
right.
It's a problem in this. It's a problem in every big city, but especially Seattle. And and again. You can blame the police, you can blame everyone. There's a lot of blame to go around, but crime is crime. And when you have the income disparity that we have in Seattle, that we have in every major thriving urban city, where people are always left behind, it's a problem. And, we look to our city leaders for help on this. I where I stand on the politics of city council and stuff. But, again, I read an article where Councilmember Morales, starts spouting off, we need this, we need that, we need to help all these, agencies and stuff, but it doesn't seem to be helping. I mean, are we feeding into, I don't want to sound like some right-wing radio zealot, but, are we feeding into this industrial complex of, the nonprofits? Because the more money we shell into nonprofits to help with these problems, it doesn't seem like the money is getting to the right people. And if it does get to the right people, it's not sustainable. So at some point, we need to rethink this. We need to take a bold approach. And I'm not talking about building fortresses and over-policing everybody but systemically, how do we cure the ills that are hitting this city? Because it's unsustainable.
Yeah. And I hate that it happened in the ID, in the Chinatown ID, because it's a place that I like, and I like going there. I think, I don't know if I just happened to be a victim of circumstances on the day, because there were some other nice cars around there. Yeah. And I don't know if it's some teenagers that are just going for a joyride. The officer that showed up, nice guy, Officer Abraham Estrada. A brother, kind of helped me out there. One of the things he said, he goes, sometimes they are able to they take the car and they just might joyride. He asked me how much gas I had in the car. And I said, well, I got about, 3/4 of a tank. Well, he says sometimes teenagers will break in and they'll take it for a joyride and they'll just park it someplace. Since then I've been reading about all this stuff. And there was an article in the Times by Gene Balk, who's that FYI guy. And this was from April, and he said that reported that since the pandemic, the stolen car percentages have gone up by about 73%, I guess, in Seattle. We're ranked something like 7th in the country, so that's a big issue. We've talked to the chief, Adrian Diaz, and car thefts, it's a big problem. We know that, stolen vehicles, when there's a crime, there's usually a stolen vehicle involved in an accident. So we know that it's an issue, and now it's come home to me. They said that, from what I've read, anywhere from about a 40 to 50% chance that the vehicle might be recovered. But I don't know. Right now I'm just kind of in a holding
The vehicle may be recovered, but there might not be anything left.
There might not be much of my vehicle left. So anyway, it's really upsetting, and it just, you do feel violated. I'm just kind of pissed about it all. So if anybody sees a 2013 navy blue Lexus, it's got a WSU sticker down in the lower left, and, let me know, because I'd love to get my car back. I'd like to get it back in one piece, but I guess I'm not holding my breath. It's troubling to have something like that.
And to your point about the CID, I mean, I hate that happens there, because it just
me
compounds too. Like it's a dangerous place. Don't go down there, but it happens. And I'm sorry, the Chinatown International District is about 3 football fields in size.
Yeah.
And yet it is a crucible for every ill that affects the city, just distilled into this one area. And, so goes the CID, so goes the city. I mean, it really is true. And if people really understood that dynamic, they might go in there and really solve the problem there. And if they solve the problem there, they can solve a lot of the problems in the city.
Yeah. But it's not just the CID where stuff like this is happening. Let's face it. You can see people using drugs right downtown, and in the middle of downtown, not just in the CID. I don't know what the likelihood of having your car stolen off the street, in downtown Seattle is.
Probably it's a little less than you actually finding a parking space.
Well, see, that was the other thing. I must have spent 20 minutes trying to find a parking spot in the CID. And, if I'd have known what was going to happen, man, I think I would have Ubered down there. But, I hate that it's happened there, because I don't like adding to what I think is an unfair image or a stigma that the CID has. And, it bothers me a lot. It just pisses me off that it happened, period. If anybody sees my car, call me. So,
I mean, they talk about transportation issues in the city, and it's all of the above. I mean, there are certain lines, bus lines and transit lines that people feel unsafe on. Yeah. So they drive their cars. And so when they drive their cars and they park, then they feel unsafe again because of just break-ins in the cars and car thefts. I mean, sometimes I pass it off to being just Seattle's a big city, but, I don't know if all big cities are like this.
I don't know. I mean, let's face it. I think there's so many different problems that have popped up since COVID happened, and just the kind of the fallout from the pandemic and all of these other things. So now, how do we make sure this doesn't happen in the future? I don't know that we can't cure it completely, but one thing I did do is I walked around to the area and asked people there if they had video cameras. And actually, I talked to your son who works at the Wing Luke, and we had communication. Unfortunately, they don't have a camera that's pointed out in the direction of where I parked, which was on the north side of Weller. and they have it on the south side, and and they're also in Canton Alley. And then there is an association, a Chinese association in the building right by there.
Yeah, Chonghua.
Yeah, Chonghua. And I did talk to a woman who was coming to a meeting there. She was very nice, and she said, yeah, they did have a camera. So she gave me her number. I got to give her a call, see if somehow they can maybe see if it was pointed in that direction, and if we can find anything. Not that it would help me get the car back, but I'd like to know what the deal was. Mm-hmm. So I did check around with different businesses and just to see if they had cameras and things.
Well, there's not many businesses right in that corner. That's one of the issues right there. And that's why a lot of cars have been broken into. Right. I mean, my son had his rear window of his car smashed out. Yeah. In that same spot where you were parked. Yeah. So, I mean, it is a known hot spot.
Yeah. The woman who was with the Chunwa said that, and because they have on the chain link fence out there, because there's a little lot and basketball court and playground area that they do have video cameras. And so anyway, I hope maybe I can get them to at least roll it back, see if they have anything that could help me find out. But I'm on a wait and see mode. Got a rental car coming, and hopefully we'll be able to. Hopefully the car shows up. If not, then I'm going to be getting a new vehicle. We'll see what happens now. So, okay. Speaking of Chinatown and something positive, Amazon has announced that they are going to help revive the Chinatown International District night market that went away because of sponsorships and things like that. I think they're pouring something like $250,000 into helping to sponsor that again. A good thing for the CID. So.
Oh yeah, of course it's a good thing, because it was really missed. It's one of those things you don't miss it until it's gone.
Gone, right? Yeah.
And there was a big outrage about that. Amazon stepped up. I've got mixed feelings about that because I don't know if it's sustainable, right? I mean, are they going to do this every year? At some point, it has to be recognized that night markets are a thing. And it does help the neighborhoods. It activates them. It makes, it helps the businesses there. So it's a good thing. But the city's got to figure out a better way to help neighborhoods, especially neighborhoods that are unique and that have a long history of doing this sort of thing. Because you just can't let this die. So I'm thankful to Amazon. But again, the good and the bad, right?
Yeah, you wonder if it's just a one-off. People will say, oh, it's Amazon. Everybody's got their opinion about Amazon. I'm just glad it's happening. I think that's an important thing first and foremost. It's good for the CID. That's a good thing. So you got to, I think we have to look at the positive of all of this.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
It would have been better if the city stepped in to help.
Yeah.
But, public-private partnerships, for the most part, are good if it does help the community. And this is something that directly helps the community and brings in people from all over the city and all over the region, actually, to an event that's really a pretty cool event.
Yeah, it is. It is a very cool event. So I look forward to attending. Speaking of the city and Mayor Bruce Harrell, Seattle Times article written by David Croman, kind of looking at where the mayor is now, that he has a council that is favorable, I guess, in his direction and dealing with issues like public safety and homelessness and all of that. You have a council that is definitely more moderate, less off to the left or progressive. Is the mayor under pressure now to deliver? I would say yes.
I would say yes. I mean, one of the things, it's always, and again, I keep coming back to, this is slamming our own business, but the media, they have to characterize it in a certain way, and they say, well, it's up to Bruce now. He's got his team. He's got all this other stuff. Well, my time working with the mayor, it's way more complicated than that. I mean, to have the city council on your side is one thing, but you still have to come up with viable solutions.
Right.
And that's the main thing is we need creativity in government, just like creativity in all fields. We need to innovate. We need to come up with creative solutions. We can't fall back to the old thing of like, well, let's just put up cameras and surveil everyone. And, let's put more police on the streets, because that clearly isn't working. We've got to rethink what we do. And I don't have the answer, but, I think the city council needs to put some energy into that. And I think they will.
Yeah. Well, it's time to get some things done, for one thing, to move ahead and to get some stuff that hopefully is going to revive downtown. At times when I've been downtown, it seems almost close to normal. But then again, there are the times I'm down there and it doesn't. But there needs to be much more consistency so that, all of those businesses that we've lost hopefully will come back at some point. Other businesses if necessary. But we obviously we're in a different time and mode where people are, not so many are working downtown. So we got to deal with all of that. But yeah, right now, I think, that he is under some pressure to deliver. And I think he realizes that, and he knows that he has to
get something going now, particularly since he has a council that is probably going to be a little more easier to work with than what he's had in the past. I noticed that Tammy Morales, who was kind of one of the last remaining progressives on the council, did say that basically that, the council doesn't work for the mayor. Of course, I think that she would say that because she'd been at odds with the mayor on various issues in the past. But I also think that the council has to work with him, and he has to work with the council to try to get something done and to deliver pretty quickly, because, it's not that far. He's going to be up for re-election and all that stuff.
Well, but to see, again, that's the crux of it. To characterize it by saying we don't work for the mayor is wrong. No, you're all working together for the city.
That should be that
really should be that should be the mantra. And her statement alone is problematic, because that is what was wrong in the past. We have a reset now, and so maybe we can get some stuff done. When you talk about going downtown and feeling relatively safe, in certain areas, but there's certain areas that you just don't go into.
True.
And that can't be. I mean, and I keep coming back to the CID, but you look at the navigation center that went into Little Saigon and all the problems, 12th and Jackson, the drug use, just the devastation Little Saigon has experienced, and that spills over into the rest of the Chinatown and Japantown and all the other areas. The problem is people forget that it was once a thriving neighborhood.
Right.
People would go up there and shop. They would make that a destination for a lot of the Vietnamese community to go do their grocery shopping, eat lunch and stuff. And now that doesn't exist anymore. So the one decision that then disgraced Mayor Ed Murray made without anybody's consent changed the course of a neighborhood for a decade. And that's unacceptable.
Yeah. And the question of why there? I mean, that's
why there?
And again, that's
to score political points
right,
at the time, because he was under pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, the emergency had just started. It wasn't even a fraction of what it is today.
Yeah. And again, you look at the history of what's the CID has had to deal with, and almost been this. Well, it has been a dumping ground, and so that you come back to that history in the past, and that part of it has to change. Got to revive some of that area, because I think that Little Saigon, that's really unacceptable to what has happened there. And
and we also have to rethink of where we put these shelters. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a shelter there, right? But but it's a residential neighborhood, and maybe, a facility that is like a Mary's Place, that is for women and children, might be more acceptable to the community, as opposed to a low barrier shelter that is there and generally occupied by a lot of people with mental health issues, with drug issues. And of course, there's some that just need shelter, which, my heart cries out to. But there should be certain areas where that's more appropriate than dropping it into the middle of a residential neighborhood.
Right. With also businesses that then take the hit. That's the other big part of it. So we're going to see what happens there. All right. So you're going to watch the Super Bowl?
Of course.
Who are you rooting for?
I'm torn because I lived in the Bay Area for so long. I do love the Niners, but there's something about the Chiefs that it's hard to hate the Chiefs, right? It is.
It is. Yeah.
Because they don't do anything that just is heinous or anything. You know, they're not stealing signs. They're not doing anything, you know, and people are fabricating it. I mean, like Taylor Swift is now part of the Super Bowl. Well, you know, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
People, this is not a religion. It's entertainment.
Yeah.
And it's very entertaining to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I do want the Niners to win. I know as a Seahawk, that's like blasphemy. But, you know, my days in San Francisco were the Joe Montana, Steve Young, those days.
Yeah, those are pretty good
days.
Those
are the glory days.
Those are glory days. Yeah.
And, you know, and they've never really fallen off that much, which is just amazing to me.
Yeah. So what do you think of Chip Kelly possibly becoming the Seahawks offensive coordinator?
I think it's a fascinating trend because he's not the only one from the college ranks is being considered for, you know, assistant coaching positions. Right. Because the whole, what is it? The name, likeness, the NIL situation and the transfer portal is just unpredictable.
Yeah,
it is. A lot of these coaches go like, I don't want to deal with that. Yeah. I want to deal in professional, solid football. So why not go to the NFL?
Right.
So I think we're looking at a whole new kind of interesting time in football, and I think it's going to be very exciting because it's going to be more like college ball, but only on steroids. And probably half the guys are on steroids. Anyway, so.
Well, Chip Kelly, let's face it, when he was at Oregon, the guy's offense was, that's actually where Oregon really started to build this huge reputation of being, a great football program. And he had a lot to do with building it there. And so he's a creative kind of guy. He's had a lot of interesting things to say about NIL and portal and how to deal with it all. And I love listening to him, and I actually think he's got some really good points on the whole thing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with all of that. And by the way, go ahead.
I think the new regime, a younger new regime is great because I don't know about you, but years of watching Seahawks football and it's 3rd and long and they run it.
Yeah.
I'm done with that. I'm done with that.
Yeah. Open it up and just go for it. Yeah.
Just go for it because NFL football is at its best when they're scoring points.
That's true. Very, very true. And I'm going to go with the Chiefs because I think they're a good football team. It's nothing against the 49ers. I just want to see a really good game. Mm-hmm. And
you're a Swiftie.
Yeah. Actually, I got to tell you something that my 2-year-old grandson, Taylor Swift, helps him when he's having a tantrum. My daughter would play that music and it would calm him down. So I guess I'll go as a Swiftie now. So, but yeah, no, I just like Patrick Mahomes. I think that, he's just incredible to watch. And, Travis Kelce's one hell of a tight end, wide receiver, really, because he's just an incredible athlete. Yeah. So, and I like their podcast with the brothers, so it's pretty good. So, yeah. All right, Matt. Well, hey,
there's actually one thing we should talk about.
Oh, okay.
Too, and that is our good friend Donald Trump.
Oh, our good friend.
El
pendejo.
This week, when they finally said he doesn't have ultimate immunity, which is, of course, he doesn't. I mean, it's the most ludicrous thing, but he's just trying to delay.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, which, we're recording on a Wednesday. Tomorrow, Thursday, is when the Supreme Court will start hearing arguments on, if he can be on the ballot in Colorado.
Right.
It's going to be interesting because this, if they rule on this, if they accept the case and if they rule on it, well, I think they have accepted the case. They're hearing arguments.
Yeah.
But if they rule in favor of Colorado or in favor of states' rights, it could go a long way to redeem the court in many people's eyes.
True.
and that could be the course correction this country needs. But we'll see if they're possessed enough to actually understand their place in history and how we can't have this monster regain the White House. And even if he doesn't, the damage inflicted on the way to him trying to, which is just ridiculous. I mean, the country shouldn't have to go through this.
True. It should not be going through this. It shouldn't have to be dealing with him and his antics and just all of this stuff. It's, but as you say, the court, I think, is going to be under huge pressure because of the fact that he appointed, so many. How many justices did he appoint? At least 2, maybe 3. I can't remember now the number.
3.
But 3.
No, 4. Right?
Okay. Is it 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, but it's a court that he's had a lot of impact on, and so what are they going to do? I mean, are they going to follow the law? Are they going to get caught up in politics? Should a guy like Clarence Thomas recuse himself? Although I'm sure he won't. But
of course not.
They are under the microscope in this whole thing. So how they rule and what they do is going to say a lot about where we're going to be. And so,
and also I urge people of color, no matter what you think,
vote.
You gotta vote. You can't vote for Trump because in no way does it serve your interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a racist. He's a fascist. And most of all, he doesn't give a shit about people of color. In fact, he doesn't give a shit about even his own Aryan Brotherhood. I mean, he just wants to stay out of jail and he wants to be able to rule like a king.
Yeah.
That's unacceptable in this country.
That's what it's all about. He's trying to stay out of jail. And it's like win the presidency again, and then I don't have to go to jail. But
and then he never has to relinquish power.
Yeah. And that won't ever happen. But then we're looking at civil war. We're looking at a military insurrection. I mean, it's just there's nothing good that comes out of this guy. You're right. And people need to really take this seriously. They really need to take this seriously to understand, and particularly in our communities of color. This is we complain about our democracy not being fair. Well, if you don't vote, and don't give me that, well, if I vote, I don't have a say. That's a bunch of crap. Just you need to vote. You need
because time and time again that's been proven wrong.
Wrong. Yeah. Yeah. So you gotta vote. You gotta participate in the process. You gotta be a part of the process, and do not think that your vote does not count. Your voice counts. Your power is in voting. Just make sure you get out and do that.
Yeah. And ultimately, if you don't want to see Trump in the White House, the only surefire way is to make sure he doesn't get the votes to go in there. We can't rely on the Supreme Court. We can't rely on, the special prosecutors. We can't rely on Fani Willis to do our battles. They all have their own battles. But ultimately, we do have a role in this, and that is to vote.
Vote. Please vote. All right, Matt. We'll talk more later.
Okay, thanks. The Chino y Chicano podcast is available on your favorite podcast provider.
You can watch the video version on YouTube, and Converge Media, a leading producer of culturally relevant content in the Pacific Northwest. We'll talk more later.